moving on, I want to talk about Libs of TikTok because I didn't get a chance to do that yesterday, and I really wanted to. Now, I gotta tell you, like, um, I never will be at the scale that Libs of TikTok is. Never, ever, ever is going to happen, and that's okay. Because I don't want that anyway. But I have been doxxed, and I know how scary that is, and I cannot imagine the pressure that Libs of TikTok is under right now. I really can't. I mean, listen, man, she is a private person who built a Twitter account posting videos from TikTok. That's all she did. Post videos from TikTok of people acting crazy, saying crazy things, doing crazy things to show what they're doing. That is all she did. And what we saw with Libs of TikTok being doxxed quite literally by Taylor Lorenz and the Washington Post is an entire media establishment activating to destroy a private citizen because they didn't like the light that that private citizen put them in simply by sharing their content. That's probably one of the things that's most disturbing of all because of this. It's so disturbing that someone could do such a simple act of taking videos from TikTok and putting them on Twitter, and that's it. And that's enough to melt down the media establishment. That's enough to have them assign people to go and stalk this person and stalk this person's family only because they showed them what was really going on. I really hope Libs of TikTok has gotten some great security. I've heard that like the Babylon Bee is helping her out. I've heard that Steven Crowder is helping her out. Ron Coleman is her lawyer, and so it seems as though she's surrounded by a really good crew of people that seem to be very committed to helping her out. But man, I mean, good for her for persevering, and good for her for saying last night, "You're not going to stop me from speaking out." And I think that she's aware that she can make a lot of money doing this. I do not think money is going to be a problem for her at all. There will be absolutely people who are supporting her to keep going, and she's earned every penny of it so far as I'm concerned. But another thing I want to say before we jump into this article, and this is an opinion piece. It's not like stating the facts, stating an opinion. The Libs of TikTok expose is part of a new trend shaming private citizens who dissent. What I will say is every single one of us can do what Libs of TikTok did. Nothing that Libs of TikTok did was special. Nothing that Libs of TikTok did was hard. Every single person can do what Libs of TikTok did. And every single person should be doing what Libs of TikTok did. All they did was like they hustled. I mean, she hustled, man. She hustles more than most people. Because I won't deny the hustle. I don't think like this is not a dig at her at all. I'm not saying that, oh, what she did is so easy and anyone can do that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the very best way to keep this stuff going and to spread the risk out over a variety of people is if everyone does this or stuff like this. This is why we do happy hour on my second channel on Fridays. This is why I routinely clip things that leftists say in these woke trainings that we watch, and I put them on Twitter to expose it. Every single person is capable of participating in this. And if it's more than one person, they can never take it down. Here is why a decentralized initiative is better than relying on one person. And this is, again, one of the bones I have to pick with conservatives is one person does something and they do it really well. And conservatives are all like, you know, that's it. We don't need to do anything else. This person is running this Twitter account. Scott Pressler is out there registering voters. I can go kick back in my easy chair and watch the game. If you have a decentralized initiative where you have multiple people doing different things and no one's in charge and no one's telling anyone else what to do, but you're all working towards the same goal and you're just doing it in multiple different ways. If you've got 10 people doing this and one person gets taken out, you still have 9 people doing it. Right now, what we have is let's say a couple of accounts, because we can do Libs of TikTok, we can do Myth Inform. Those guys do a great job. I'll give a third to Andy No. I see Nat D mentioning Andy No in the chat because Andy No does a phenomenal job. Andy No's work is impeccable. So let's say we've got Libs of TikTok doing this consistently. We got the Myth Informed guys doing this consistently. We've got Andy No doing this consistently. You take Libs of TikTok out, which I'm not saying she's quitting, but let's just play pretend for a second. You take Libs of TikTok out, you've only got 2. Okay? What if there were, again, let's use the Scott Pressler example that I used earlier. What if there were 100 people doing this? Then you take one person out, and you still got 99 effing people doing it. You know? So I think, again, this is another example of why conservatives need to step the fuck up. No, Benjamin Boyce doesn't do this. Steven Crowder doesn't do this. Steven Crowder does different things. I wouldn't say Drew Hernandez does this either. Drew Hernandez, well, I don't think Drew Hernandez does I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. Let me just say that. He comes across as very angry to me, and I don't think his work is as impactful because of it, to be really honest with you. But there should be more people doing this stuff. This is not hard. Because when you talk about something like Benjamin Boyce does, Benjamin Boyce puts time into interviewing people. He puts time into editing. Those are things that are more complicated. Literally all all Libs of TikTok does is take videos from TikTok and put them on Twitter. That's it. It's significantly less of a time commitment. And it is something that every single person can do. And to be quite frank, because people in the chat right now, they're naming, well, what about this person doing it? What about that person doing it? What about this person doing it? What about that person doing it? What about you doing it? Why aren't you doing it? What's wrong with you doing it? Why are you waiting for other people to save you? Why are you waiting for other people to step up? Why do you feel entitled to have other people take all the risk for you so that you can be entertained on the internet? Why don't you do it? Why don't you try? Why don't you start an account? Let's read. A controversial expose in the Washington Post by journalist Taylor Lorenz revealed the identity of a popular anonymous Twitter account, Libs of TikTok. The article included private information about the account holder in a naked attempt to shame her into silence. And as such, it is part of a larger trend in which liberals use legacy and social media to silence dissent. The Libs of TikTok account exploded in popularity last year for hosting viral videos of overly zealous liberals engaging in bizarre behavior and advocacy. As bizarre as doxing an anonymous account over political differences seems, Lorenz went as far as harassing family members of the woman behind the account in order to gather information. But these kinds of attacks on privacy and anonymity of private citizens who have dissent from the liberal hegemony have, in ways found to be problematic, have unfortunately become more commonplace in recent years. It's not just coming from journalists. After a group of miscreants stormed the Capitol on January 6th, I have to say, I actually like how they've called the people who stormed the Capitol on January 6th a group of miscreants. Oh, apparently I have to enable that? Oh, I didn't realize that, Patrice. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I like how they call them a group of miscreants. Congresswoman AOC suggested keeping a tally of political dissenters. Is anyone archiving these Trump sycophants for when they try to downplay or deny their complicity in the future? I foresee a decent probability of many deleted tweets, writings, photos in the future. Well, I posted pictures on Instagram from the Capitol lawn that depicted exactly zero violence on January 6th, and Instagram made me delete them, AOC. Instagram literally locked my account until I deleted them. They depicted no violence. It was just showing there's a massive fuck ton of people on the Capitol lawn on January 6th, because this was before I even knew what was going on inside the building. AOC's call to action seems to have prompted the formation of a group called the Trump Accountability Project. Oh God, remember them? whose goal was to curate a list of White House staff, cabinet members, and political appointees across the US government whose jobs were linked to the Trump administration in order to blacklist them from future work. Despite the clearly alarming trend of creating official lists of enemies for your political opponents and using ethically questionable means to expose private information, these kinds of retribution fantasies are enthusiastically embraced by the Democrats and their media allies. Well, I'm going to go so far as to say they're not just embraced by Democrats and their media allies. As many of you know, I have a friend last week who was doxxed by supposed anti-woke people, and the crime he committed was being friends with me. So this is not just going on in the Democrats. This is not just going on in the media, although that's probably where the biggest problem is. I will absolutely tell you that people in the anti-woke community, and I'm going to talk more about this later, are doing exactly the same fucking thing. I don't know who needs to hear this, but putting someone's personal information on the internet is never acceptable. My friend, who is a private person, was literally fucking doxxed last week simply because he's friends with me. Had private information put on the internet as a petty form of revenge against me. And it came from people in the so-called anti-woke community. So we'll talk more about that in a little bit, but I just wanted to state that it is not only coming from the left, and anyone who thinks it's only coming from the left is not paying attention. Doxing is never acceptable. It is never acceptable. I don't care what your excuse is. I don't care how badly someone pisses you off. I don't care how effective you find it to be as an intimidation tactic. It is never, ever, ever acceptable. George Andrevalso Nunez says, doxing bad, it doesn't matter who does it. Yes. And we all should be able to say that. Taylor Lorenz doxing Libs of Tik Tok is just the latest incarnation of this trend. It showcases the absurd laws that corporate media will stoop to in order to silence independent voices that capture inconvenient popular sentiments. Listen, I already can hear the argument that I'm going to see in my comments on YouTube, and it's going to go something like this. Well, Carlin, just because your friend was doxed doesn't mean that the left doesn't do this more, and don't you think that the left does this more than the right does? That's actually not the point. It's not the point. And one of the things that I think is going to happen from this, we've talked a lot about the backlash on this channel where the left does something fucking stupid and crazy, and then the right's like, ooh, I guess we need to do that stupid and crazy thing. So the minute that the left does something crazy, the right backlashes against it and does that stupid, crazy thing in direction. And then the left backlashes against the right and gets even crazy. And then the right backlashes against the left because they have no creativity of their own. They don't know what to do. They get even fucking stupid and crazy. And then we have horseshoe theory where you have two sides meeting at the top because they're both acting the same. I don't care who does it more. I don't care who does it more frequently right now, because inevitably that balance will shift. Oh, hey. You want to know why? I've been playing with the cable. Is the mic better now? Is it better now? See, it sounds fine to me is the problem. I was playing with the cable. I shouldn't have been touching the cable. Better now, because I'm not touching the cable. All right, I'm not going to touch the cable anymore. There's probably a wire loose somewhere. Okay. I'm not going to touch the cable anymore, I promise. Only need one not to agree with the political stances of Trump supporters or the Libs of Tik Tok account to feel apprehensive about these attacks on anonymity and privacy being normalized and celebrated as brave activism. And then you can see they've got Taylor Lorenz showing up at Libs of Tik Tok's relative's house. The Washington Post expose not only failed to explore the cultural and political reason why Libs of Tik Tok gained such a cultural prominence, it also failed to contextualize why the choice to dox the anonymous user served any real political or journalistic purpose beyond a show of malice and intimidation. This kind of petty behavior is a more common theme among the self appointed digital authorities of the corporate media class who mask their desire to silence independent actors that pose a threat to their discursive dominance beneath a facade of activism and the work of exposing pernicious actors. Alex S. says communist tactics, doxing and going after the opposition's families. Yep. Nat D says horseshoe theory is when the left goes too far left and the right goes too far right. Well, no. Horseshoe theory is when they become the same at the top. They're the same. They're just mirror images of each other. And therein lies the true agenda behind the calls for accountability that are too often weaponized by media figures who the establishment favors. The desire to control the cultural output of political opponents by employing any means necessary to silence them, including unethical means. This is then justified by portraying private citizens who are simply utilizing their political power and speech as dangerous spreaders of disinformation or as threats to democracy, as in the infamous case of the Trump Accountability Project or podcaster Joe Rogan. Lee says, yes, yes, yes. I wish more conservatives understood that compromising morality by comparison is bad. Yes. In an increasingly volatile and capricious media realm, anonymity provides much needed protection for those whose community cuts against the official narrative, and attacks against the anonymity are almost always designed to intimidate opponents and impact their livelihood or credibility. Well, I actually think that anonymity is one of the problems. I actually think anonymity is one of the problems. Paul, I'm going to be honest. If my microphone distracted you, you're not really committed, buddy. We only want committed people here. And if a microphone or the need to buy a snow jacket distracts you, then you might not be a good fit. But I actually think that anonymity is one of the problems, because I think that if everyone who considered themselves part of the silent majority stopped being silent and spoke up and said, here is what I think and here is why I think it, and I'm not doing anything wrong or bad by saying that. If they stopped taking the left's bullshit and spoke up, then this would all be over in an instant. I think anonymity is the problem. I think that too many people try to run and hide out of fear, and then they go behind these anonymous accounts, and then this bullshit happens. And they're like, see, this is why we were anonymous in the first place. Well, listen, man, I'm not afraid of being doxxed or any of this, because I'm not anonymous. I just wish more people were speaking up. And if everyone who disagreed with this stuff spoke up against it today, it would all be over. There would be nowhere for these people to go. The only reason the woke left continue to win is because people insist on being anonymous cowards that don't speak up. That might not be what you want to hear, but that's the truth. That is the truth. I understand why Libs of Tik Tok maintained anonymity. I do. But if you really want to win, guess what, guys? Listen, here's the reality. I think it's disgusting that Libs of Tik Tok got doxxed. I also don't think Libs of Tik Tok was really doing anything to fight back in any real way. I think what Libs of Tik Tok was doing was providing entertainment. Now, they were exposing things that I think needed to be exposed and needed to have greater reach. But the fact of the matter is that none of this was happening in private anyway. This is a classic case of like people choosing to be entertained versus people actually doing things to fight back. The punitive the punitive measures send the worrying message that the only acceptable commentary is the propaganda sanctioned by the democratic arm of the corporate state machine. If one dares express or promote sentiments that are a challenge to that hegemony, Any consequence is morally justified. The doxing of Libs of Tik Tok user is only the tip of the iceberg. Agreement or disagreement with sentiments expressed by an account being subjected to silencing shouldn't be the fulcrum upon which to hinge your concerns over the precedent their doxing sets for dissenting voices across the political spectrum. I mean, the reality is, Taylor Lorenz got doxed yesterday. And of course, there was that great interview that she did not too long ago on MSNBC where she was like, people send me mean tweets and I have PTSD over it. She got doxxed yesterday. Her family got doxxed yesterday. So it's like one good turn deserves another, I guess. And I think that Taylor Lorenz getting doxxed is just as bad as Libs of Tik Tok getting doxxed. But she should have expected it. She absolutely should have expected it. There was no way that wasn't going to happen. And that's part of the climate that she's created. However, with conservatives turning around and doing exactly the same thing that just got done to them, they are only perpetuating this. And if you think that more conservative anonymous accounts aren't going to get doxxed, you are out of your ever loving mind. And it's all because both sides just keep backlashing against the other. No one's interested in doing the right thing. They're only interested in continuing this conflict. Under the current order, the issues of censorship and political intimidation of opponents continues to transcend traditional partisan alliances. And if this issue is not treated with the consideration it warrants by actors on all dissenting sides of the political spectrum, it will result in an even more hegemonous and tightly controlled media sphere where dissent eventually ceases to exist in spaces that are easily accessible to the mainstream. Yeah, Alex S says it's a slippery slope to that horseshoe thing. That's exactly what it is. So my ask of everyone that, pays the least bit of attention to me, and who knows if you take me seriously or if you're just hate watching, I'm sure Justice is just hate watching, or I'm sorry, the court jester. Don't dox people, guys. Don't dox people. Trust me, it's not that hard to make the decision to not dox someone. Every single person can participate in this. We all make an agreement. Stop putting people's personal shit on the internet. And I don't care if your enemy does it. I don't care, conservatives. Conservatives be like, but the left does it. Taylor the Reds dox them to TikTok, so it must be okay to dox them. How do you possibly expect us to fight back if we aren't doxing people? That's exactly what I'm going to hear. And I don't give a fuck. If you are doxing people, you are a garbage human being. If you are putting people's names, if they use different names or addresses or phone numbers on the internet for the purpose of harassment or intimidation or to try to silence them or cause them harm in any way, you are a garbage fucking human being. Don't do it. You will get no sympathy from me, and I don't think you'll get sympathy from anyone else either. And if you dox someone and then you yourself get doxed, don't you dare cry those tears just like Taylor Lorenz did. Oh my God, I have PTSD. You did it to yourself. You did it to yourself by supporting this bullshit in the first place. George Andrew Veloso Nunez says, an eye for an eye just leaves everyone blind. At some point, people need to make the decision to start acting better than your political opponents.